The air inside the warehouse was heavy, thick with dust and gasoline. A single bulb flickered above Grace Miller's head, throwing weak shadows across the cold concrete floor. She was barefoot, her dress torn, her swollen belly pressing against the rough fabric. Every breath came with pain. 7 months pregnant, and already 5 days without proper food. Her wrists were bruised, her lips cracked. Somewhere outside, the rain tapped against the metal roof like a cruel reminder that freedom was so close and yet impossible. Grace lifted her head when she heard a car door slam. The familiar sound made her heart race. Footsteps followed, male footsteps. Ryan was back. Her husband, her nightmare. The door creaked open. A slice of light cut through the darkness, revealing Ryan's tall figure. His once handsome face now twisted with anger. He carried a bottle of whiskey in one hand and his phone in the other. "So," he sneered, "you still think that baby is mine?" Grace didn't answer. Her hands instinctively covered her belly. "Ryan, please. The baby." "The baby?" he laughed. "You mean your little secret? Tell me, Grace, how long were you sleeping with him?" Tears filled her eyes. She didn't know who he meant anymore. Ryan's jealousy had no logic. He saw betrayal in every shadow, every word, every breath she took. He grabbed her arm, forcing her up. "You disgust me. You ruined my life. And now you want sympathy?" She winced in pain but stayed silent. She'd learned silence kept her alive. Ryan's phone buzzed. He looked at the screen and smirked. "Olivia's waiting for me. She actually knows how to treat a man." That name hit Grace like a knife. Olivia, her sister, once her best friend. Now the woman sharing her husband's bed. When Ryan left, slamming the metal door shut behind him, Grace sank to the floor, shaking. She tried not to cry too loudly. He hated when she cried. She pressed her palm against her belly and whispered, "Hold on, baby. Please. Just hold on." In the silence that followed, something broke inside her. Not hope, but fear. Fear that maybe no one would ever find her. Then footsteps again, quieter this time. She froze. Was he back? No. These steps were hesitant, lighter. She held her breath. A small shaft of light appeared under the door. Someone whispered, "Is anyone in there?" Her heart stopped. Grace crawled toward the door, her fingers trembling. "Please," she rasped, her voice barely a whisper. "Help me." The person hesitated. "Who are you?" "I'm—" Grace coughed, blood at the corner of her mouth. "I'm pregnant. He's trying to kill me." The light flickered again, and the voice replied, "I'm just a delivery driver. I'm not supposed to be here." "Please," Grace begged, tears streaming down her face. "Tell Victoria Miller. Tell her Grace is alive." The driver stepped closer, confused. "Victoria Miller? The CEO?" Grace nodded desperately. "She's my sister." A long pause. Then, the man's shadow disappeared from under the door. Grace's hope shattered. She pressed her forehead to the cold floor, whispering, "Please don't leave me." Outside, the sound of the engine roared, and then, faintly, footsteps returned. The lock clicked. Someone was opening the door. 2 years before the warehouse, the sun shone brightly over a garden filled with white roses and crystal chandeliers. Grace Miller stood under a floral arch in a lace gown, her heart racing not from fear, but from happiness. She believed this was the start of forever. Ryan Collins, in a tailored navy suit, smiled at her with the confidence of a man who had everything. "You're the most beautiful woman I've ever seen," he whispered as he placed the ring on her finger. Grace's cheeks flushed. She saw sincerity in his eyes, or maybe she only saw what she wanted to see. The guests cheered. Champagne glasses clinked. Olivia Miller, her glamorous older sister, hugged Grace tightly. "You did it, sis," she said, flashing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "You found your prince." At that moment, Grace didn't notice how long Olivia's gaze lingered on Ryan. Later that night, the reception shimmered with fairy lights. Ryan danced with Grace under the stars. "You're safe with me," he said softly. "I'll protect you, always." Grace believed him. She didn't see how his fingers tightened slightly around her waist, just enough to mark a hint of possession. The honeymoon was a dream: private beaches, candlelit dinners, laughter. But even then, small cracks began to appear. Ryan didn't like her checking her phone. He didn't want her to post pictures. When she laughed too loudly at a waiter's joke, his hand froze mid-air. "Some men don't appreciate flirty wives," he said lightly, but his smile was cold. Grace apologized without understanding why. Months passed. Ryan insisted she quit her job. "You don't need to work," he said. "A husband should provide." She resisted at first. Designing interiors was her passion, but he kept insisting, gently at first, then firmly. One night, after another argument, Ryan's tone shifted. "Do you know how many men would kill to have what you have? A house. A husband. Stop being ungrateful." The next day, Grace handed in her resignation. Without her income, she became financially dependent. Ryan controlled the credit cards, the bills, even the groceries. "It's just easier this way," he told her. Olivia visited often. She always brought expensive gifts: perfume, dresses, jewelry, and Ryan seemed happier when she was around. Grace thought it was because they both liked luxury. She never imagined there was something more. At dinner one evening, Olivia teased, "You're lucky, Grace. Ryan's the kind of man every woman wants." Ryan smirked and raised his glass to Olivia instead of his wife. Grace laughed it off, but inside, something small and sharp twisted in her chest. Then came the night Ryan forgot their anniversary. When Grace cried, he simply said, "You're too emotional. You make everything dramatic." It was the first time she felt truly alone in her marriage. She went to the balcony, staring into the city lights, whispering, "I love him. He'll change." Behind her, through the glass reflection, Ryan's phone lit up. A message appeared on the screen. "Olivia, miss you already. Same time tomorrow?" Grace turned around just as Ryan entered the room, smiling. "What's wrong, sweetheart?" he asked. She forced a smile. "Nothing," she said, swallowing her tears. "Just tired." He kissed her forehead gently, unaware that she'd seen the message. But in Grace's heart, a quiet storm began to form, one that would soon destroy everything. The first crack had appeared, and the perfect marriage was starting to rot from within. The morning sun slipped through the curtains, painting gold streaks across the bedroom. Grace Miller stirred awake to find Ryan already dressed, checking her phone on the nightstand. His brow furrowed as he scrolled through her messages. "Who's Daniel?" he asked flatly. Grace blinked, still half asleep. "He's my coworker from the design firm, remember? The one working on the hotel project." Ryan tossed the phone onto the bed. "You don't need to talk to him anymore. You're married now." She sat up slowly. "He's just a friend, Ryan. Men and women can't be just friends, Grace." His tone was calm, but his eyes were sharp. Grace forced a smile. "Okay, fine, I won't text him." He nodded, satisfied, and kissed her forehead before leaving for work. The moment the door shut, Grace's smile vanished. She stared at her phone screen, where Ryan had already deleted half her contacts. That evening, he came home early. "Let's have dinner at home," he said. "No need to go out." She tried to make conversation as they ate, but he barely looked up from his phone. When she asked who he was texting, he replied, "Business." At midnight, she woke up to the glow of his phone again. Ryan was in the hallway, whispering. "Yeah, I miss you too," he said quietly, smiling. "She's asleep. Don't worry." Grace froze in bed. Every word pierced her chest like a needle. She wanted to get up, to confront him, but fear rooted her in place. The next morning, Ryan acted as if nothing happened. He brought her breakfast in bed, flowers on the tray. "You're my whole world," he said. Grace smiled weakly. Something in her heart whispered that this was guilt disguised as love. Soon, Ryan started choosing her clothes. "You look better in blue," he'd say, replacing her red dress with something plain. "You don't need makeup. I like you natural." He canceled dinner plans with her friends, claiming he wanted quality time. He insisted she delete social media, saying, "You don't need strangers liking your photos." Within months, Grace's world shrank to the size of their house. Her sister Olivia visited one evening, bringing a bottle of wine. "You look tired," Olivia said, glancing around. "Ryan keeping you too busy?" Grace smiled, hiding her discomfort. "No, he just likes things quiet." Ryan entered with perfect timing, wrapping an arm around Grace. "My wife's safe here," he said smoothly. "No stress, no drama." Olivia giggled and leaned into his shoulder a little too comfortably. Grace noticed, but she pushed the thought away. That night, when Olivia left, Ryan's mood shifted. "Don't wear that dress again," he snapped suddenly. "You looked like you were trying to impress her." Grace stared at him, confused. "She's my sister, Ryan." He slammed his fist on the table. "Don't talk back." Her heart pounded. The silence that followed felt endless. Finally, Ryan muttered, "I'm sorry. I just love you too much." He hugged her tightly, almost painfully, whispering, "You'll understand someday." Grace didn't sleep that night. She lay awake, staring at the ceiling, realizing love shouldn't feel like fear. And yet, for the first time, she was too afraid to leave. Grace Miller sat on the edge of the bathtub, her hands trembling as the pregnancy test showed 2 clear pink lines. For a moment, everything froze. Her chest tightened, then tears rolled down her cheeks, not from fear, but from an overwhelming rush of joy. She had always wanted a child, a family, a reason to feel alive again. Maybe this would bring Ryan back, the Ryan she fell in love with, not the cold man he had become. She waited until he came home that evening. The moment he stepped through the door, Grace ran to him, smiling for the first time in weeks. "Ryan, I have something to tell you." He looked at her curiously, tossing his keys on the counter. "What's going on?" "I'm pregnant." The words hung in the air like sunlight through dust. Grace waited for the smile, the hug, the tears. Instead, Ryan's expression froze. His eyes darkened. "Are you sure?" he asked slowly. She laughed nervously. "Of course, I'm sure. I took 3 tests." He leaned back, crossing his arms. "And how do I know it's mine?" Grace blinked, confused. "What?" "Ryan, what are you talking about? You've been sneaking messages with other men. Maybe you think I don't notice, but I do." His voice rose. "Don't lie to me, Grace." Her heart sank. "I haven't done anything wrong." He turned away, pacing. "This isn't what I wanted right now. A baby. Do you know how much that complicates things?" Grace stepped closer, desperate. "We can do this together. You'll see it's a blessing." Ryan's jaw clenched. "Don't use that word. You've ruined everything." He stormed out, slamming the door. Grace fell to her knees, clutching her stomach. She whispered to her unborn child, "It's okay, sweetheart. Mommy's here." Over the next few days, Ryan grew colder. He ignored her calls, came home late, sometimes drunk. When she asked where he'd been, he replied, "Working." But she could smell the perfume on his shirt. Then Olivia started visiting more often. She brought smoothies and vitamins, pretending to care. "You need to rest," she said, stroking Grace's hair. "Don't stress about Ryan. Men get weird when babies come." Grace nodded, grateful for the company. She didn't notice how Olivia's eyes wandered to Ryan's phone on the table, or how her hand lingered when she touched his shoulder. Weeks later, Grace showed Ryan the first ultrasound photo. "Look," she said softly. "That's our baby." He barely glanced at it. "Stop calling it ours until we know." Her smile faded. "Ryan, why are you doing this?" "Because I know what women like you do," he snapped. "Trap men, use tears and babies to get sympathy." Grace flinched. "I loved you." He smirked. "Then prove it. Do what I say. No more phone calls, no visitors. I'll handle everything." That night, Grace cried herself to sleep. In the darkness, her baby kicked for the first time, a small, defiant reminder that life still existed inside her. She whispered, "We'll survive this. I promise." Outside the bedroom door, Ryan stood listening, his face unreadable. Then he typed a message on his phone. "It's done. She's pregnant, but I'll take care of it." And the message was sent to Olivia. Rain poured outside as Grace Miller opened the door, surprised to see her sister standing there in a red trench coat, holding a bouquet of lilies. Olivia Miller's perfume filled the air, sweet and sharp like something too perfect to be real. "Surprise," Olivia said brightly. "I was in the area and thought I'd check on my favorite little sister." Grace smiled, though her face was pale from exhaustion. "Come in. Ryan's not home yet." "Good," Olivia said softly, stepping inside. "You look different. Are you taking care of yourself?" Grace nodded. "I'm trying. It's been hard lately. Ryan's been distant. But maybe once the baby comes," Olivia interrupted, pouring herself a glass of wine from the counter. "Grace, you have to stop making excuses for him. You deserve more than this." Grace looked down at her hands. "You don't understand. He's just stressed. His business is struggling." Olivia smiled faintly. "Oh, I understand perfectly." She glanced toward the hallway, her eyes scanning the pictures on the wall, Grace and Ryan at their wedding, their honeymoon, the anniversary dinner. "You always get the good ones, don't you?" Grace frowned. "What do you mean?" Olivia waved a hand. "Nothing. Just thinking out loud." When Ryan came home that evening, he froze for a second at the sight of Olivia. "Didn't expect to see you here," he said, his tone guarded but familiar. Olivia tilted her head. "Just visiting. Grace needed company." Ryan smiled politely, but his gaze lingered too long. Grace noticed. For the first time, something inside her stirred an ache of suspicion she tried to bury. Later that night, as the three of them ate dinner, Olivia laughed at one of Ryan's jokes. Her laughter was too loud, her touch on his arm too casual. Grace forced a smile but felt her heart sink. After dinner, Ryan offered to walk Olivia to her car. Grace stayed behind, cleaning the dishes. Through the window, she watched them standing close under the porch light. Their silhouettes leaned together. When Ryan came back, he smelled faintly of Olivia's perfume. She didn't ask. She was too afraid of the answer. The next morning, Olivia called. "Grace, you should come stay with me for a while," she said gently. "Ryan needs space." Grace frowned. "He told you that?" Olivia hesitated. "He told me. He's confused. He doesn't know what he wants right now." Tears welled up in Grace's eyes. "He's my husband, Liv. I can't just leave." "Sometimes," Olivia said, her voice cold now, "loving someone means letting them breathe." That night, Ryan came home late again. His tie was loose, his eyes glassy. Grace confronted him quietly. "Were you with Olivia?" He froze. "What kind of question is that? Just answer me." Ryan's face darkened. "You're paranoid. Pregnancy hormones, that's all." Grace felt her stomach twist. She turned away, holding back tears. Ryan's phone buzzed on the table. She glanced down. A new message lit up the screen. "Olivia, she suspects something. What should we do?" Grace's heart stopped. Her hands trembled. Ryan grabbed the phone quickly, glaring. "You shouldn't look at things that don't concern you." Grace whispered, "You're both lying to me." Ryan stepped closer, voice low and cold. "Be careful what you say, Grace. You don't want to make me angry." And for the first time, she realized her sister wasn't her protector, she was her replacement. 2 weeks after discovering the message between Ryan and Olivia, Grace Miller moved through her house like a ghost. Her once warm home now felt like a stage set, everything perfect, everything fake. Ryan was oddly cheerful again, humming while he packed suitcases. "Where are we going?" she asked quietly. He smiled, slipping his phone into his pocket. "You've been under too much stress. I'm taking you somewhere peaceful, just us two. No phones, no drama, no Olivia." Her heart lifted at the last words. Maybe he meant it. Maybe he realized he'd gone too far. "That sounds nice," she said softly. He kissed her forehead. "You'll love it." The next morning, they drove out of Los Angeles. Grace watched the city shrink behind them, skyscrapers fading into open road and endless fields. Ryan's hand rested on the steering wheel, his wedding ring catching the light. He was quiet, humming along to old songs from when they first met. She wanted to believe this was a new beginning. Hours passed. The landscape grew emptier. The roads turned to dirt. Grace frowned. "Ryan, where are we going exactly?" "Just trust me," he said. The air turned colder. The sky dimmed. Grace rubbed her belly nervously. The baby kicked soft, rhythmic, alive. Finally, the car stopped in front of an old warehouse. The paint peeled from the walls, the windows boarded up. Grace's pulse quickened. "Ryan, this isn't a resort." He stepped out, circling the car. "It used to be a storage facility my company owns. Perfect for privacy." "Privacy?" she repeated, her voice trembling. "Ryan, I don't understand." He opened her door and smiled, but his eyes were dark. "Get out, Grace." She shook her head. "No, please, let's just go home. I don't feel right about this." "Out," he repeated, sharper this time. When she didn't move, he grabbed her arm. The sudden force made her gasp in pain. "Ryan, stop. You're hurting me." He didn't listen. He dragged her inside the warehouse. The door slammed behind them, echoing through the hollow space. Inside, the air smelled of rust and dust. A small cot sat in the corner. A bucket. A table with water bottles and canned food. Grace stared in horror. "What is this place?" Ryan's voice was calm, almost gentle. "A timeout. You need to clear your head. Think about what you've done." She felt dizzy. "I haven't done anything." He leaned in close, whispering. "Then it'll be quick. A few days. Just until you remember who you belong to." Tears blurred her vision. "Please, Ryan." "I'm pregnant." "I know," he said flatly. "That's why I'm giving you a chance to behave." He turned to leave. Grace stumbled forward, grabbing his sleeve. "Don't leave me here." He looked back, expressionless. "You'll thank me one day." The door shut. The lock clicked. Grace screamed until her throat burned, pounding the metal with her fists. No one answered. The silence was heavier than chains. She slid to the floor, holding her belly. "It's okay, baby," she whispered through sobs. "Mommy's here. We'll survive." Outside, Ryan stood in the rain, staring at his phone. A message from Olivia appeared. "Olivia, did you do it?" "Ryan, she's gone. It's better this way." And with one text, he erased her from the world. The first night inside the warehouse felt endless. The walls groaned with wind, and every sound made Grace Miller flinch. She sat curled up on the cot, her arms wrapped around her swollen belly. The baby moved again, slow, steady reminders that she wasn't completely alone. Ryan had left a small box of food crackers, canned soup, a few bottles of water. "You'll be fine," he'd said before leaving. "Be good, and I'll come back." She wanted to believe him. But days passed. Then weeks. The air grew colder. The light bulb above flickered until it finally died, leaving her in half-darkness. She tore a strip from her dress to cover the crack in the wall where wind seeped through. When it rained, drops leaked from the ceiling, landing on her blanket like cold tears. Her body ached, her feet swelled. Sometimes she talked to herself just to remember what her own voice sounded like. "We'll make it, baby," she whispered each morning. "Mommy promises." Ryan came every few days. Sometimes he brought food, sometimes just rage. "You're still here," he said once, laughing bitterly. "I thought maybe you'd learned your lesson by now," Grace begged. "Ryan, please. I'll do whatever you want. Just take me home." "Home?" he sneered. "You think that house is yours? You think I worked all these years for you?" His words cut deeper than his hands. That day, when she reached for his arm, he slapped her so hard she saw stars. "Don't touch me," he growled. "You're lucky I'm letting you live." He left, slamming the door. Grace lay on the floor, bleeding from her lip, her belly trembling under her hands. "It's okay," she whispered, even though it wasn't. "We'll survive this." Weeks turned into months. She lost track of time, marking days with scratches on the wall. Once, she thought she heard footsteps outside. She screamed for help until her throat burned, but no one came. The baby kicked harder now, restless, alive. Grace began saving pieces of her food, hiding them under the cot. If Ryan ever stopped coming, she'd have something, anything, to keep them both alive. One evening, as the sun bled red through the small crack in the door, Ryan arrived again, drunk. He tossed a paper bag at her feet. "Eat," he said. "You look disgusting." Grace trembled. "Why are you doing this to me?" "What did I ever do?" Ryan smirked. "You loved me. That's your mistake." He turned to leave, but Grace shouted, "Does Olivia know what you're doing?" He froze, then laughed. "She doesn't care. She's smarter than you. At least she knows how to please me." Grace's heart shattered. The man she once called husband had become a stranger, no, worse, a monster. That night, as the wind howled outside, Grace pressed her hand to her stomach. "I swear, my love," she whispered, "if we make it out alive, I'll never let anyone hurt you." The bulb flickered once, then went out completely. Darkness swallowed her. She thought she heard something, a faint thud from the door. "Ryan?" she called weakly. No answer. Then, in the silence, a faint voice, low, hesitant, came from the other side of the metal door. "Is someone in there?" And for the first time in 5 months, hope spoke back. The voice on the other side of the metal door made Grace Miller freeze. Her breath hitched. It was deep but uncertain, someone who didn't belong here. "Yes," she cried, her voice hoarse. "Please, help me." Silence. Then, a hesitant reply. "Who are you?" "I'm just a delivery driver." "No one's supposed to be here." Grace crawled closer to the crack under the door, her knees scraping against the cold concrete. "My name is Grace," she whispered urgently. "I'm pregnant. My husband, he locked me in here. Please, please don't go." The man shifted nervously. "This building's condemned. I was told to drop off supplies and leave. I can't." "You don't understand," she interrupted, desperate. "If you leave, he'll kill me. Please. I have a sister, Victoria Miller. She's a CEO in Los Angeles. Tell her I'm alive." That name made him pause. "Victoria Miller, the one from the news?" "Yes," Grace sobbed. "She's my sister. Please find her. Tell her where I am." For a long moment, the man didn't answer. Then she heard his footsteps fade away. "No," she whispered, pressing her palms against the door. "Please don't leave me. Please." But there was nothing. Only silence and the sound of her own heartbeat. Hours passed. Or maybe days. Grace lost track of time. She didn't sleep. She couldn't. Every sound outside made her flinch. She began tearing pages from an old box of invoices left in the warehouse, writing with a broken piece of metal she found on the floor. Her hands shook, but she carved the words deep into the paper, mixing ink with her own blood when the pen stopped working. "Victoria, he has me. I'm alive. Don't believe what he says. The baby's still okay. Find me before it's too late." When she finished, she folded the note tightly and waited. Days later, the same footsteps returned. "Are you still there?" the man whispered through the door. Grace's eyes filled with tears. "You came back." "I shouldn't be here," he said, "but I couldn't stop thinking about what you said." She slid the bloody letter through the crack. "Take this, please. Give it to her." The man picked up the paper carefully. "How will she know it's real?" "Tell her," Grace said, her voice trembling, "to remember the lake house, the summer after Mom died." He nodded slowly. "I'll find her." For the first time in months, Grace felt something strange, something like hope. "Thank you," she whispered. He hesitated, then said softly, "My name's Ben. I'll come back. I promise." The footsteps disappeared once more, but this time Grace didn't feel abandoned. She clutched her belly, whispering to the baby, "We did it. Someone knows." Outside, the rain began to fall again. Miles away, Ryan sat in a luxury hotel room with Olivia, scrolling through his phone. "No one's found her," he said smugly. "It's like she vanished." Olivia smiled nervously. "Are you sure?" Ryan leaned back. "Trust me. She's gone for good." He didn't notice the small, blood-stained letter already on its way to Victoria Miller's office. And when Victoria opened it, The first line made her heart stop cold. Victoria Miller sat behind her mahogany desk, her office overlooking downtown Los Angeles. The city hummed below perfect order, perfect control, just the way she liked it. Her assistant, Lauren, entered quietly, holding a small torn envelope. "This came for you," she said. "No return address." Victoria barely looked up from her laptop. "Probably another business proposal. Leave it on the desk." But Lauren hesitated. "Ma'am, it's covered in what looks like blood." Victoria frowned. She reached for the envelope, noticing the shaky handwriting. "To Victoria Miller, from your sister Grace." Her heart froze. Grace. It had been months since Ryan told her Grace had left. He said she was unstable, suffering from postpartum depression. Victoria never questioned it. Her relationship with her youngest sister had always been complicated. Hands trembling, she tore open the envelope. Inside was a single folded page, smudged and torn. "He has me. I'm alive. The baby's still okay. Don't believe him. Find me before it's too late." The words blurred as Victoria read them again and again. She recognized the handwriting instantly. Grace's handwriting. Her pulse raced. "Lauren," she said, standing abruptly. "Get me the police. Now." "But ma'am, if this is a joke." "It's not a joke," Victoria snapped. "It's her. She's alive." For the first time in years, her calm, executive mask cracked. She sat down, gripping the letter so tightly it crumpled in her hand. Memories flooded back Grace as a child, holding her hand at their mother's funeral. Grace's laughter. Grace's innocence. And then the guilt. The way she'd distanced herself after their parents died. The way she'd ignored Grace's calls when she first married Ryan. Victoria whispered to herself, "What did I do?" Within an hour, 2 detectives arrived at her office. One of them, Detective Harris, studied the letter. "Where do you think she might be?" "I don't know," Victoria admitted. "Ryan said she left him. He claimed she wanted space." The detective exchanged a glance with his partner. "We'll start there." Victoria insisted on coming along. They drove to Ryan's gated house, where he answered the door with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Victoria," he greeted smoothly. "What a surprise." She held up the letter. "Explain this." Ryan's smile faltered for a fraction of a second. "Where did you get that?" "It was sent to my office. Grace is alive, isn't she?" He laughed, too quickly. "That's impossible. She ran off months ago. Probably wrote that before she left." "Then why is her blood on it?" Victoria snapped. Ryan froze. Behind him, Olivia appeared, her face pale. "Maybe you should leave," she murmured. Victoria's eyes narrowed. "What did you do to her?" Ryan's jaw tightened. "Careful, Victoria. You don't know what you're accusing me of." "Oh, I know exactly what I'm accusing you of," she said coldly. "You hurt my sister, and I'm going to find her." She turned and walked away before he could answer. That night, as Ryan poured himself a drink, Olivia whispered, "What if she's telling the truth?" He smiled darkly. "Then we'll make sure no one ever finds her." But outside, under the glow of the city lights, Victoria Miller was already tracking them both, and she wouldn't stop until she found her sister alive or buried. The rain pounded hard against the windshield as Victoria Miller's black SUV raced down the deserted road. Her knuckles turned white around the steering wheel, the crumpled letter lying on the seat beside her. Every line of Grace's handwriting burned in her memory. She didn't wait for permission. The police were slow, cautious. Victoria wasn't. She was done being careful. Next to her sat Detective Harris, scanning a map. According to the GPS data from Ryan Collins' truck, he's been driving out here every few days. There's an old warehouse 2 miles ahead, abandoned 20 years ago. Victoria pressed harder on the gas. Then that's where she is. When they reached the site, floodlights from police cars sliced through the fog. Officers surrounded the entrance. Victoria stepped out into the rain, her heels sinking into the mud, but she didn't care. "Wait here," Harris said firmly. "We'll handle this." She ignored him. "That's my sister in there." "Ma'am." But she was already running toward the building. Inside the warehouse, Grace lay weakly on the cot, her body trembling. She hadn't eaten in 2 days. The sound of engines outside startled her. Then came the thud of boots, dozens of them. She sat up, heart racing. The door burst open. Light flooded in. Grace Miller. A voice called out. Grace blinked, blinded by the sudden brightness. "Please," she whispered. "Please don't hurt me." "It's okay," Harris said, lowering his gun. "You're safe now." Behind him, Victoria appeared. Her hair was soaked, her eyes wide with disbelief. "Grace." Grace froze, then broke into sobs. "Vicky." Victoria ran to her, dropping to her knees beside the cot. She gathered Grace into her arms, holding her tightly. "Oh my God, you're alive." Grace could barely speak. He said no one would come." "Shh," Victoria whispered. He was wrong. The paramedics rushed in, lifting Grace carefully onto a stretcher. "Severe dehydration, malnutrition," one said, "and she's in her 3rd trimester. We need to move fast." As they wheeled her out, Grace grabbed Victoria's hand. "The baby, please, save the baby." "You both will be fine," Victoria said, her voice breaking. "I promise." Outside, under the flashing red and blue lights, Ryan's car screeched to a halt. He jumped out, soaking wet, rage flashing in his eyes. "What the hell is going on here?" Harris stepped forward. "Ryan Collins, you're under investigation for kidnapping and domestic abuse." Ryan laughed bitterly. "This is insane. She's my wife. She left me. I was trying to help her." Grace's voice cut through the chaos, weak but steady. "Liar." Ryan's head snapped toward her. For the first time, he saw the strength in her eyes, the strength he tried to break. Victoria stepped between them. "If you ever come near her again, I'll destroy you myself." Ryan's smirk faltered as 2 officers grabbed his arms. "You can't prove anything," he shouted. Victoria held up the blood-stained letter. "I already did." As Ryan was shoved into the police car, lightning flashed overhead. Grace, pale and trembling, was loaded into the ambulance. Victoria climbed in beside her, taking her hand. "You're safe now, Grace. It's over." Grace looked at her through tears. "No, Vicky," she whispered. "It's not over. Not yet." And as the ambulance doors closed, Ryan's cold eyes watched through the rain, a silent promise of revenge burning in the dark. San. The storm hadn't stopped when Ryan Collins slipped out of police custody that same night. It wasn't magic, just money, manipulation, and the right friends in dark places. By dawn, his car was speeding down the freeway toward Texas, Olivia Miller in the passenger seat, wrapped in his jacket, eyes wild with panic. "Ryan, this is insane," she shouted over the sound of the rain. "The police are everywhere. They'll find us." "They won't," he snapped, gripping the wheel tighter. "They don't have proof." "The letter could have been forged." Olivia shook her head. Victoria saw Grace with her own eyes. "She's alive. You lied to me." Ryan's smile was thin and cold. "You knew what I was doing. Don't play innocent now." Tears filled Olivia's eyes. "I didn't know you'd actually hurt her." "You wanted her gone as much as I did," he said. "Don't forget who sent me her address that night." Her throat went dry. He was right, and yet something inside her shifted. She'd wanted Grace to disappear, yes, but she hadn't wanted her dead. As they drove deeper into the desert, the city lights faded, replaced by endless miles of darkness. Ryan's phone buzzed every few minutes, unknown numbers, missed calls, news alerts. The media was already tearing him apart. CEO's sister found alive. After kidnapping. Husband missing. Olivia finally whispered, "What's the plan now?" He glanced at her. "There's a safe house near Austin. I have cash, contacts. We'll disappear for a while. And then," he smiled without warmth, "then we rebuild. I still have access to Grace's accounts, her signatures on everything. Victoria won't be able to touch a cent." Olivia stared at him, horrified. "You're still using her?" "She owes me," Ryan said flatly. "Everything I built was because of her family's money." Hours later, they stopped at a run-down motel. Ryan handed cash to the clerk, keeping his hood low. Inside the dim room, Olivia sat on the bed, trembling. "Ryan," she said quietly, What if we turned ourselves in? We could make a deal. Say Grace was unstable. That he slammed his fist into the wall, making her jump. Don't you ever say her name again. Olivia's breath caught. You're scaring me. Good, he said. Fear keeps people loyal. That night, while Ryan slept, Olivia crept to the bathroom. She stared at herself in the cracked mirror, the smeared mascara, the guilt, the bruises on her wrist from his grip. For the first time, she saw the truth. She'd traded her soul for a man who would destroy her too. The next morning, Ryan woke to find her staring out the window. We leave in 10 minutes, he ordered. She nodded slowly, but her mind was elsewhere. Because last night, while he slept, she'd taken his phone and sent a single anonymous message to Victoria Miller. He's alive, heading to Texas. You'll find them both if you move fast. Olivia's fingers trembled as she deleted the message. Ryan didn't notice. He poured coffee, humming. We'll start over, he said. You'll see. Olivia forced a smile. Sure, Ryan. Whatever you say. But outside, under the same rising sun, Victoria Miller's private jet was already on its way, and this time, she wasn't coming to talk. The Texas sun blazed overhead as Ryan Collins and Olivia Miller pulled into a small house at the edge of a dusty road. The place was silent, surrounded by overgrown weeds and rusted fences, a forgotten property Ryan claimed belonged to an old business partner. Inside, the air was thick and stale. Ryan dropped his bag on the floor and locked the door behind them. We'll stay here a few days, he said, long enough for the heat to die down. Olivia sat on the couch, arms crossed, trying to ignore the pounding in her chest. And then what? We live like fugitives forever? Ryan poured himself a drink, the whiskey glinting amber in the sunlight. Not forever, just until I fix things. Fix things, she scoffed. You kidnapped a pregnant woman, Ryan. You can't fix that. He smirked. Grace should have listened. She brought this on herself. Olivia's stomach turned. You're sick. He turned sharply, slamming his glass down. Watch your mouth. The tension thickened like smoke. Olivia wanted to scream, to run, but fear rooted her in place. Every time she thought she'd seen the worst of him, he proved there was lower ground. That night, Ryan sat by the window, scrolling through the news on his laptop. They're painting me like a monster, he muttered. Victoria's been feeding them lies. She's always hated me. Because you hurt her sister, Olivia whispered. He ignored her. If I could get to Grace before the police do, I could fix everything. Make her tell the truth. Olivia felt cold. Ryan, you can't go near her again. Who's going to stop me? You? He laughed and turned toward her. You need me as much as I need you. Without me, you're nothing. But he didn't notice how tightly Olivia gripped her phone, hidden in her lap. She'd sent another message to Victoria earlier that night, a location pin. Just 3 words. He's losing control. Hours passed. Olivia lay awake, listening to Ryan's breathing beside her. She remembered the way he used to charm her, the smiles, the promises, the illusion of safety. Now all she felt was disgust. At dawn, she woke to the smell of gasoline. Her heart stopped. She stumbled into the living room and saw Ryan standing with a red fuel can, his eyes wild. What are you doing? She whispered. He smiled faintly. Insurance. If I can't have a future, no one will. Ryan, please. He poured gasoline across the floorboards. You think I don't know what you've done? You think I didn't check my phone logs? Olivia froze. He knew. Ryan pulled a lighter from his pocket. You betrayed me, Olivia. I just wanted out, she cried. We can still leave. We can still. He lit the flame. The fire caught instantly, racing up the walls. Smoke filled the room. Olivia screamed, grabbing a blanket to shield herself. Ryan stumbled back, coughing, his face illuminated by orange light. Ryan, she shouted. The door. He didn't move. The heat roared, devouring everything. Olivia ran barefoot, choking, bursting through a side window as the house exploded behind her. She fell to the dirt, shaking, her skin burned and her lungs seared with smoke. When she looked back, the house was a blazing inferno. Ryan's figure flickered in the flames, then disappeared. And as sirens wailed in the distance, Olivia realized the monster she loved had finally destroyed himself, or so she thought. The steady beeping of hospital monitors broke the silence. Grace Miller lay in a hospital bed, her skin pale and fragile, IV lines running into her arm. The bright light above her felt foreign after months of darkness. Every muscle ached, but she was alive. Barely. Beside her, Victoria Miller sat motionless, clutching her sister's hand. The doctor's words still echoed in her mind. Severe malnutrition. Trauma. She's lucky to be alive, and the baby's heart rate is unstable. Victoria had spent her life building empires, signing contracts worth millions, but now all her power meant nothing. She would have given it all just to see her sister smile again. "Grace," she whispered, her voice breaking. "I'm here, okay? You're safe." Grace's eyelids fluttered. She turned her head weakly toward Victoria. "Vicky?" Tears rolled down Victoria's face. "Yes, sweetheart, it's me." Grace tried to speak, but her voice cracked. "The baby. Is he?" Victoria squeezed her hand. "The doctors are doing everything they can." Minutes felt like hours. Nurses rushed in and out, adjusting machines, whispering urgently. Grace's stomach clenched as another contraction hit. She cried out, gripping Victoria's hand until her knuckles went white. "You need to breathe," the doctor said firmly. "We're delivering early, 7 weeks premature." "But the baby's strong. He's fighting." Grace nodded weakly. Her body trembled with exhaustion, yet her spirit refused to give up. "I have to see him," she gasped. "Please don't let him die." Victoria leaned close. "He won't. He's got your strength." The room filled with frantic motion, doctors shouting, lights glaring, the sharp scent of antiseptic. Grace felt her consciousness slipping, her heartbeat slowing. Somewhere far away, she heard Victoria's voice. "Don't leave me again, Grace. Please." And then silence. For a terrifying moment, the monitors flatlined. "Code blue," a nurse shouted. Victoria's world shattered. She stood frozen as doctors swarmed around the bed. "Grace, stay with me," she cried. And then a small, fragile sound pierced the chaos. A cry, a baby's cry. Grace's body went still, but her lips curved faintly, as if she heard it from beyond the edge of darkness. Moments later, a nurse turned, holding a tiny newborn wrapped in a white blanket. "He's breathing," she said. "He's okay." Victoria covered her mouth, sobbing in relief. "Oh my God, thank you." The doctor looked grave. "But your sister's still critical. We're trying to stabilize her." Victoria took the baby in her arms, staring down at him. His skin was pink, his little fists clenched tightly. "You're a miracle," she whispered. "You saved her, didn't you?" Hours later, Grace stirred again, her eyes opened slowly. "Vicky." Victoria rushed to her side. "Don't move, just rest." Grace's gaze drifted toward the incubator near her bed. Inside, the baby lay sleeping pee. "He's perfect," Victoria said softly. "You did it." Grace smiled weakly, tears streaming down her face. "His name?" "Hope." "His name is Hope." Victoria nodded, her voice trembling. "Hope it is." For the first time in months, light filled the room, soft, warm, and real. Grace closed her eyes again, whispering, "Tell him, his mommy will never give up." And as the baby stirred in his sleep, the machines beside her began to steady proof that where there is hope, life always finds a way. The soft hum of hospital machines filled the room. Morning sunlight filtered through the blinds, washing the white walls in gold. Grace Miller lay asleep, her breathing steady but weak. In the corner, Victoria Miller sat wrapped in a blanket, her phone buzzing non-stop with business calls she ignored. For the first time in her life, work didn't matter. Only family did. The nurse entered quietly, adjusting Grace's fore. "She's stable today," she said with a kind smile. "Her vitals are improving." Victoria nodded, her voice thick with exhaustion. "Thank you." Her eyes drifted to the small glass incubator beside the bed. Inside lay the baby, tiny, fragile, a miracle wrapped in white. He slept peacefully, his chest rising and falling. Victoria stood, her heels clicking softly on the tile, and whispered to him, "Hey there, little man. You've already survived more than most adults ever will." She reached in and touched his small hand. He gripped her finger instinctively. The touch broke something open in her heart, a kind of love she didn't know she was capable of. When Grace finally woke, her voice was faint but clear. "Vicky?" Victoria turned instantly, moving to her bedside. "Hey, baby sister. You scared me half to death." Grace smiled weakly. "You look tired." "I haven't slept in 2 days," Victoria admitted. "And I don't care." Grace's eyes filled with tears. "You came for me." Victoria's throat tightened. "I should have come sooner." Grace shook her head. "You didn't know." "I should have known," Victoria said softly. "You called me after your wedding. You said you didn't feel safe. And I told you to work it out with him. I thought you were being dramatic." "Vicky," Grace whispered, "don't blame yourself. He fooled everyone." Victoria took her hand. "Not again. No one will ever hurt you again. I promise." For a long while, they just sat together, the silence filled with unspoken forgiveness. Later that afternoon, the doctor came in. "She'll recover, but slowly. She's malnourished, and the trauma runs deep. She'll need physical therapy and counseling." Victoria nodded. "Whatever she needs, money's not an issue." Grace smiled faintly. "It's never about the money, Vicky. It's about healing." Victoria sat back, exhaling. "Then we'll heal together." As night fell, Victoria went to the hospital chapel, the quiet echoing in her chest. For years, she'd built walls around her heart, chasing power, success, control. But now she knelt, clasping her hands, whispering a prayer she hadn't said since she was a child. "Thank you for bringing her back," she said softly. "Give me the strength to protect her." When she returned to the room, Grace was asleep again, her face peaceful for the first time in months. The baby stirred, making tiny noises. Victoria smiled and whispered, "Your mommy's safe now, and so are you." Her phone buzzed on the table. A message flashed across the screen. "Anonymous. He's not dead." Victoria's heart stopped. She stared at the words, her breath catching. She looked toward the sleeping Grace and whispered, "You've been through enough. He won't touch you again. I swear it." Because if Ryan Collins was alive, Victoria Miller was ready for war. 3 days later, Victoria Miller stood in the hallway outside Grace's hospital room, her phone pressed tightly to her ear. "You're sure?" she said, her voice trembling with controlled fury. Detective Harris's tone was grim. "We found signs of forced confinement in the warehouse, blood on the walls, food cans, medical waste, and we recovered something else you'll want to see." Victoria's stomach tightened. "What is it?" "A camera." She froze. "What kind of camera?" "The kind used for surveillance. Ryan Collins recorded everything." Victoria's pulse quickened. "Bring it to me." An hour later, she sat in the hospital conference room, the laptop open before her. Detective Harris inserted the memory card, and the screen flickered to life. The first clip showed Grace barefoot, pregnant, sitting on the floor, her face bruised and swollen. She was whispering something to her unborn child, her voice trembling but tender. Victoria's breath caught. "Oh my God." Another clip played. Ryan's voice echoed through the speakers. "You'll learn to listen, Grace." Then the sound of a slap. Grace's cry. Victoria gripped the table so hard her nails dug into the wood. Her entire body shook. Harris looked away, his jaw tight. "We can stop if you want." "No," Victoria whispered. "Keep playing." The next clip was worse, Grace begging for water, Ryan laughing, calling her a liar, accusing her of affairs that never happened. The cruelty was relentless. By the time the video ended, Victoria was in tears. "He documented everything," she said. "Why?" Harris replied quietly. "Control. Abusers like him record their power. It's proof to themselves that they own their victims." Victoria's face hardened. "Not anymore." She copied every file onto her own drive. "These videos will destroy him." As Harris left, She turned to her assistant, Lauren. Send copies to 3 lawyers. I want a legal team ready by morning. Lauren hesitated. Victoria, if you release these, the media will explode. Grace will be exposed too. Victoria nodded. I know, but we'll do it on our terms. That night, Victoria sat by Grace's bedside, holding her hand. Grace stirred, eyes fluttering open. You're crying, she murmured. Victoria smiled weakly. Just proud of you. You survived things no one should. Grace squeezed her fingers. It's not over yet. No, Victoria said. But soon it will be. I have the proof, Grace. Everything he did, it's all on video. Grace went pale. You saw it? I had to. Tears welled in Grace's eyes. Don't let the world see me like that. Victoria brushed her hair gently. No one will. They'll see him, his cruelty, his lies. Grace whispered, Promise me. I promise, Victoria said firmly. This time, justice will have a face. As Grace drifted back to sleep, Victoria opened her laptop again. On the screen, Ryan's face froze mid-frame, smug and unrepentant. She stared at it for a long moment, then whispered, You recorded your power. Now I'll record your downfall. Across town, in a cheap motel room, Ryan watched the same footage on his phone, his eyes narrowing. He smiled faintly and muttered, Then let's give them a show. Because the hunter had just decided to hunt back. See, the night air was thick with humidity when Ryan Collins opened his eyes in a dim hospital room in Austin. His body screamed in pain. Bandages covered half his face, and burns marked his arms. A nurse stood nearby, startled as he tried to sit up. Sir, you shouldn't move, she said. You're lucky to be alive. Ryan smirked weakly. Lucky, that's one way to put it. He didn't remember everything, the fire, Olivia's screams, the explosion, but he remembered one thing clearly. Grace's face, the night she defied him. That memory burned deeper than any flame. When the nurse left, he ripped the IV from his arm, ignoring the sting. He found his phone on the bedside table, half melted but functional. Dozens of missed calls, news alerts, headlines. Grace Miller found alive. Husband missing after warehouse rescue. Olivia Miller presumed dead. He laughed, the sound dry and hollow. Presumed dead. How poetic. He called the only number he still trusted, a man named Cole, a former associate who specialized in cleaning up dirty secrets. She's alive, Ryan said through gritted teeth. They think I'm gone. I want information on Victoria Miller, her schedules, security, everything. Cole hesitated. Ryan, this is insane. The cops are everywhere. You're burned, wanted, and broke. I'll pay, Ryan hissed. I still have access to Grace's accounts. She owes me that much. By morning, Ryan had vanished from the hospital. Cameras caught only a shadow limping through the parking lot. Meanwhile, in Los Angeles, Victoria Miller reviewed court documents in her office. She was preparing charges of assault, fraud, and attempted murder. We'll crush him legally, she told her lawyers. But deep down, she felt uneasy. Evil like Ryan's didn't just disappear. That evening, Grace sat by the window of her hospital room, staring at the sunset. Her baby slept in the crib beside her. For the first time, she felt calm, fragile but real. Then her phone buzzed. No number, just a message. Did you miss me? Her blood ran cold. The phone slipped from her hand. Victoria rushed in at the sound. Grace, what's wrong? Grace's lips trembled. He's alive. Victoria grabbed the phone, reading the message, her jaw tightening. How? He can't be. But before she could finish, her own phone buzzed. A new text. You took everything from me. Now it's my turn. Attached was a photo. The image showed Victoria's car parked outside the hospital, taken from across the street. Victoria's pulse spiked. She moved quickly, locking the door, calling security. He's nearby, she said. We need full protection now. Grace clutched her son, whispering. He'll come for me. Victoria held her tightly. Let him try. Across the street, Ryan watched through binoculars from a stolen car, his burned face hidden beneath a cap. He saw Victoria through the glass, strong, protective, untouchable. He smirked. You think money and guards can save her? He turned the key, the engine rumbling to life. Let's see how strong Big Sister really is. And as the car pulled away, the war between predator and protector officially began. The next morning, Victoria Miller arrived at her penthouse, escorted by 2 armed guards. The city stretched beneath her like a glittering maze, but for once, it gave her no comfort. Ryan Collins was alive, and that changed everything. Lauren, her assistant, met her at the elevator. "The legal team's waiting in the boardroom," she said quietly. "They've reviewed the footage you collected." Victoria nodded, her jaw tight. "Then, let's end him." Inside, the lawyers played the videos again, Ryan's cruelty, the beatings, the confinement. One of them, an older man named Reynolds, adjusted his glasses. "These recordings are damning, but we need more. He'll claim they're edited. He'll twist everything." Victoria leaned forward. "Then find witnesses. The delivery driver who brought Grace's letter, his name is Ben. Track him down." Lauren scribbled notes, already making calls. Reynolds continued. "We can push for a restraining order, but with Ryan still missing, enforcement will be tricky." "He won't stay hidden for long," Victoria said. "Men like him never do." Meanwhile, at a small motel on the edge of the city, Ryan sat hunched over a laptop, his face illuminated by the blue glow of the screen. His burns had healed enough for him to move freely. The news played in the background, reporters praising Victoria Miller as a heroic CEO who saved her sister from abuse. Ryan smirked. "Heroic, huh? Let's see how heroic she looks when the world sees her dirty secrets." He opened a folder of files, stolen documents from Victoria's company, financial deals, confidential mergers. He'd gathered them years ago, preparing for leverage. Now, they were his weapon. That night, Victoria received an anonymous email. The subject line read, "You can't protect her if you can't protect yourself." Attached were dozens of her private company files and a short video of her boardroom, secretly recorded from inside her building. Her blood ran cold. "He's inside our system," she whispered. Lauren gasped. "How?" "We use military-grade encryption." "He's not hacking," Victoria said grimly. "He's blackmailing." Within hours, the scandal exploded online. News outlets ran headlines questioning Victoria's business ethics. Stocks dropped. Investors panicked. Grace saw the news from her hospital bed, tears welling. "He's trying to ruin you because of me," she said. Victoria brushed her cheek gently. "He's trying to scare me." It won't work. But privately, she knew the stakes had doubled. Now, it wasn't just about Grace's survival, it was about destroying Ryan before he dragged them all down. Later that night, Detective Harris called. "We traced the source of the leaked files," he said. "They came from a public Wi-Fi near downtown Los Angeles bus station. Security cameras caught a man who matches Ryan's description." Victoria grabbed her coat. "Send me the location." "Victoria, wait," Harris warned. "Don't do anything reckless. We'll handle it." But she was already gone. Minutes later, Victoria stood in the rain outside a flickering motel sign. She felt the weight of her gun beneath her jacket, a precaution she never thought she'd need. A door creaked open somewhere down the hallway. She turned sharply, her pulse pounding. "Ryan?" she called out into the shadows. A voice answered softly from the dark. "Hello, Victoria. You finally came." And when he stepped into the light, his half-burned face twisted into a smile that promised only one thing: war had just become personal. The hallway smelled of cigarettes and rain. Flickering lights buzzed above as Victoria Miller took a cautious step forward, her pulse hammering in her ears. Across the narrow corridor, Ryan Collins stood half in shadow, his burned face stretched into a cruel smile. "I was wondering when you'd show up," he said softly, his voice laced with venom. Victoria kept her gun steady at her side. "You should have stayed dead, Ryan." He laughed bitterly. "Dead men don't collect revenge. You've already lost," she said. "Grace survived. Your crimes are recorded. There's nothing left for you but prison." Ryan took a slow step closer. "You always did think you could fix everything with money and control, didn't you? But I learned something from your sister: fear works better than money." Victoria's stomach tightened. "You'll never touch her again." He raised a hand in mock surrender. "Relax. I'm not here for Grace." His eyes gleamed. I'm here for you." Before she could react, Ryan lunged forward. She fired a deafening crack echoing down the hall, but he ducked behind a column, the bullet grazing his shoulder. He laughed again, louder this time. "Nice aim for a CEO," he taunted. "Step out, and I'll show you how good it is," she snapped. The corridor door burst open behind her. Detective Harris and 2 officers rushed in, guns drawn. "Drop it, Collins," Harris barked. Ryan froze, glancing around. His smirk returned. "You think this ends with handcuffs?" "No, detective. This ends with truth." He reached into his jacket and tossed a small flash drive to the floor. It slid to Victoria's feet. "Play that," he said. "Let her see who she really is protecting." Harris kicked the drive toward Victoria. She bent to pick it up, never taking her eyes off Ryan. "What's on this?" Ryan's grin widened. "Evidence. Olivia's confession. She wasn't just my lover, she was my partner in everything." Victoria stiffened. "You're lying." "Am I?" he sneered. "Your precious sister helped lure Grace to that warehouse. She sent me the address herself. She wanted the baby gone. And when she realized I'd gone too far, she tried to kill me." Harris stepped forward. "You're trying to manipulate her." Ryan shrugged. "Maybe. Or maybe your angelic Grace isn't as innocent as she looks. Check the date on the email attached to that drive. It'll show you who betrayed who first." Victoria's heart pounded. For a moment, the world tilted. Could it be true? Could Olivia really have? "No," she said fiercely. "You're lying. Olivia's dead." Ryan smiled, cruel and knowing. People like Olivia never die easily. Before Harris could respond, Ryan threw a smoke canister to the ground. The hallway erupted in gray haze. Coughing, Victoria felt someone grab her arm. A struggle, a shove, and Ryan vanished into the back exit. Outside, sirens wailed. Harris shouted, "He's gone. Get units around the perimeter." Victoria leaned against the wall, chest heaving, eyes burning from the smoke. She looked down at the flash drive still clutched in her hand. If what Ryan said was true, Olivia's ghost wasn't buried with her. She whispered to herself, "God help me. What if he's right?" And as she stared at the flash drive, she didn't see the figure watching from across the street, a woman, limping, face scarred, very much alive. Olivia Miller. The next morning, the city woke to chaos. News channels replayed footage of the motel shootout, showing Ryan Collins escaping through the back alley. Reporters shouted over one another about the missing abuser, but what none of them knew was that the real shock hadn't even arrived yet. In her penthouse, Victoria Miller sat at the table, staring at the flash drive Ryan had thrown. Her hand hovered above her laptop. Should she open it? Should she risk believing anything that monster said? Grace, now recovering at home with baby Hope, called her sister every hour. "Don't let him play with your mind," she begged. "Ryan lies for sport." "I know," Victoria said quietly. "But if there's even a grain of truth, we need to face it." She plugged in the flash drive. The screen filled with video files and one audio recording labeled Olivia, Confession, MP3. Her heart pounded as she clicked play. Olivia's voice came through the speakers, breathy, panicked, but unmistakable. "I didn't mean for it to go that far, Ryan," the voice said. "I just wanted Grace out of the picture. You said we'd scare her, not kill her." Victoria froze. "Oh my God." The recording continued. "She's pregnant. You can't hurt her now. I won't be part of this anymore." Then Ryan's voice, "Too late, sweetheart. You already are." Victoria slammed the laptop shut, trembling. Her mind spun. Olivia had helped him. But she'd tried to stop it too. Just then, the security intercom buzzed. "Miss Miller, someone's here to see you," the guard said. "I told you no visitors," she replied sharply. The guard hesitated. "She says her name is Olivia Miller." Victoria's blood ran cold. She turned slowly toward the elevator as the doors slid open. There she was, Olivia, alive. Her once perfect face was scarred, one side burned. Her hair was cut short, uneven. But her eyes, those same piercing blue eyes, were unmistakable. Victoria stood speechless. "You're supposed to be dead." Olivia gave a bitter laugh. So is Ryan, apparently. Guess we're both bad at dying. The sisters faced each other in silence. The air between them was heavy with years of betrayal and grief. Finally, Victoria said, "You helped him. You betrayed Grace." "I know," Olivia said softly, tears forming, "and I'll regret it until I die for real this time." "Why?" Victoria demanded. "She worshipped you." Olivia's voice cracked. "Because I wanted what she had. The peace, the love, the family. Ryan made me believe I deserved it too. And when I realized what he really was, it was too late." She lifted her sleeve, showing burns along her arm. "He tried to kill me when I turned on him. The fire wasn't an accident." Victoria stared at her, torn between anger and pity. "Why come back now?" "Because he's planning something worse," Olivia said urgently. "He wants to destroy you both. I know where he's hiding." Victoria's jaw tightened. "Then you're taking me there?" Olivia nodded, eyes wet but fierce. "I owe her that much." Victoria grabbed her coat, determination hardening her voice. "Let's finish this." And as the elevator doors closed behind them, two broken sisters united not for forgiveness, but for war. 2 weeks later, the courthouse in downtown Los Angeles was surrounded by flashing cameras and restless crowds. Reporters shouted questions as Grace Miller, pale but resolute, stepped out of the black SUV with her sister Victoria on one side and Olivia on the other. The three women hadn't stood together in years, not since before the nightmare began. Inside, the courtroom buzzed with tension. Ryan Collins sat at the defense table, wearing a dark suit that couldn't hide the burn scars twisting down his neck. His smirk never faltered as the women entered. "Look at you," he said under his breath. "My little angels of vengeance." Grace didn't look at him. She sat straight, holding a photo of her baby, Hope, between her trembling fingers. The prosecutor, a stern woman named Diana Klein, began her opening statement. "This is a case about control, abuse, and betrayal. The evidence will show that Ryan Collins intentionally imprisoned his pregnant wife for 5 months, nearly killing both her and their unborn child." Ryan's lawyer, a slick man with too much confidence, rose next. "Ladies and gentlemen, my client is the victim of a coordinated smear campaign. The so-called evidence you'll see has been edited by his wealthy sister-in-law to destroy his reputation." Victoria's lips tightened, but she stayed silent. The first witness was Detective Harris. He described the warehouse, the evidence, the footage. Then came Ben, the delivery driver, who had risked everything to deliver Grace's blood-stained letter. His voice shook as he pointed at Ryan. "That's the man who locked her up." Ryan leaned back, whispering to his lawyer. Next, Olivia took the stand. Gasps filled the room as she walked forward, scars visible under the courtroom lights. "I betrayed my sister," she began quietly. "I thought I loved him. I thought he loved me. But Ryan Collins doesn't love anyone. He uses people, and when they stop being useful, he destroys them." Ryan slammed his hand on the table. "You're lying," he shouted. The judge banged her gavel. "Mr. Collins, control yourself." Olivia's eyes filled with tears. "He told me Grace was cheating. He said she didn't deserve her child. I gave him her address. I believed his lies. And when I tried to stop him, he tried to burn me alive." Gasps rippled through the courtroom. Finally, Grace took the stand. Her voice was calm but carried the weight of pain. "For months, I begged him to stop. He laughed. He said no one would believe me, but someone did. My sister Victoria found me. She saved my son's life." She turned toward Ryan, her eyes steady. "You said I belonged to you. You were wrong. I belong to no one." Ryan's face darkened. "You ruined me," he hissed. Grace held her head high. "You destroyed yourself." When the jury retired to deliberate, silence filled the courtroom. Hours passed. Finally, they returned. The foreman stood, holding the verdict form. "On all counts, kidnapping, assault, and attempted murder, we find the defendant, Ryan Collins, guilty." Grace exhaled, her body trembling. Olivia buried her face in her hands. Victoria closed her eyes, whispering, "It's over." But Ryan, being led away in cuffs, turned back and smiled coldly. You think prison can hold me forever? And though justice was served, everyone in that courtroom felt the chill because monsters don't vanish, they wait. Woo! Ryan Collins's smirk faded the moment the prison gates clanged shut behind him. The sound was final, metallic, and merciless. No lawyers, no charm, no power, just steel and silence. He was processed like every other inmate. Fingerprints, mugshot, uniform. The guards avoided eye contact. Even among criminals, his story had spread. The man who locked up his pregnant wife. When the heavy cell door slammed, Ryan's arrogance cracked for the first time. His cellmate, a tall man with tattoos crawling up his neck, studied him with a predator's calm. "You the guy from the news?" the man asked, his grin crooked. Ryan straightened. "What if I am?" The man laughed low. "You hurt a woman. That means you're bottom of the food chain here." Ryan didn't answer. He turned toward the wall, hiding the flicker of fear in his eyes. Days passed. The routine was suffocating. 5 a.m. Wake-ups, tasteless food, the stink of sweat and anger. Ryan tried to act untouchable, but prison had its own hierarchy, and he was at the bottom. Everywhere he went, whispers followed. That's him, the wife locker, the coward. One night in the mess hall, a tray clattered to the floor. A muscular inmate stepped forward. "You think you're tough, Collins?" he sneered. "Heard you liked locking women up. Let's see how you like being locked in." Ryan didn't move fast enough. The punch came hard, knocking him to the ground. Laughter erupted around him. Guards didn't interfere. In this place, pain was part of the sentence. He stumbled back to his cell bleeding, his jaw swollen. In the corner, his cellmate smirked. "Welcome to your kingdom." Weeks turned into months. Ryan grew thinner, angrier. His reflection in the cracked mirror showed a man he didn't recognize, half-burned, hollow-eyed, haunted. He began writing letters, dozens of them, to Grace, to Victoria, to anyone who would listen. "You ruined my life," one read. "I loved you. You made me a monster." None were ever answered. Then came the day of reckoning. It started with whispers in the yard. The man who'd beaten Ryan before, the same one whose sister had been one of Ryan's real estate victims, approached again, but this time with 3 others. "Word is," he said, cracking his knuckles, "you liked power. Let's see how powerful you are now." Ryan backed up, his breath ragged. "Stay away from me." But the men cornered him against the fence. The guards turned away, pretending not to see. The first blow came fast, then another, then another. Ryan's screams echoed through the prison yard, swallowed by the roar of chaos. When it was over, he lay motionless, blood pooling beneath him. The warden's report would later call it an unfortunate altercation. News reached the Miller sisters 2 days later. Victoria read the report quietly, her expression unreadable. Grace looked down at her baby, asleep in her arms, and whispered, "It's over." Victoria nodded. No court could have punished him enough, but life always finishes what it starts. Outside, rain began to fall, soft, cleansing, almost merciful. And in that rain, Ryan Collins's final echo faded, leaving behind silence and the fragile beginning of peace. The news of Ryan Collins' death spread fast. For most, it was a headline. For the Miller sisters, it was closure wrapped in horror. But for Olivia Miller, it was a wound that reopened old guilt she couldn't escape. She stood on the balcony of her small rented apartment, the cold wind whipping through her hair. Below, the city buzzed with life, but inside her, there was only silence. She hadn't slept in days. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Grace's face, the bruises, the fear, the betrayal. She tried to drown the memories in wine, but guilt had a stronger taste than alcohol. A soft knock came at the door. It was Victoria. She looked different, calmer, lighter, but her eyes still carried the weight of everything they'd survived. Olivia turned away, embarrassed. "You shouldn't be here," she said. "The last time I helped, someone almost died." Victoria stepped inside anyway. "Grace forgave you, Olivia. Why can't you?" Olivia laughed bitterly. "Because I don't deserve it." Victoria studied her sister, the woman who once glowed with vanity and confidence, now hollowed by shame. "You can't change the past," she said. but you can stop letting it destroy what's left of you. Olivia's voice broke. Do you really think I can come back from this? After everything I did? Yes, Victoria said softly, but only if you start by forgiving yourself. For a moment, the room was silent. Then Olivia whispered, How is Grace? She's healing, Victoria replied. Slowly, she's been asking about you. Olivia's shoulders trembled. She shouldn't. She's naming you as the baby's godmother. Olivia froze. Her lips parted, but no sound came. She can't. After what She can, Victoria interrupted gently. Because she believes in redemption. Maybe you should too. That night, Olivia visited Grace's house for the first time since everything ended. She hesitated at the door, clutching the small teddy bear she'd bought for baby Hope. When Grace opened the door, they just stared at each other. No words, no anger. Then Grace smiled faintly. You came. Olivia's voice cracked. If I could trade places with you, I would. Grace shook her head. Don't. Just be better. Inside, the baby cooed in his crib. Olivia approached slowly, tears welling. She touched his tiny hand and whispered, I'm sorry, little one. Grace put a hand on her shoulder. You saved us in the end, Liv. You gave Victoria the information that led to Ryan. Don't let your past define you. For the first time, Olivia allowed herself to cry not out of guilt, but out of release. Days turned into weeks. Olivia started therapy. She donated most of her savings to a women's shelter Victoria founded in Grace's name. The tabloids had long forgotten her, but she didn't care. One evening, she stood in front of a mirror, looking at her scars. She touched them lightly and whispered, I survived too. Her phone buzzed. A text from Grace. Dinner tomorrow? Hope misses his aunt. Olivia smiled through her tears. Yeah, she whispered. I miss him too. Outside, the city lights glimmered. For the first time in years, they didn't mock her, they welcomed her. And as Olivia closed her eyes, she realized forgiveness wasn't given to her, it was something she had finally chosen to give herself. A full year had passed since the trial. The headlines had faded, the whispers had stopped, and the name Grace Miller was no longer tied to tragedy but to strength. The morning sunlight poured into her new studio, bright and warm. Sketches covered the walls, modern interiors, soft colors, spaces designed for peace and safety. The sign on the glass door read, New Dawn Interiors, designed by Grace Miller. Grace stood before her team of young designers, confidence in her voice for the first time in years. Every project we take on, she said, will tell a story of healing. When someone walks into their new home, I want them to feel like they can breathe again. The team applauded softly. Grace smiled, the kind of smile that came from survival, not perfection. After the meeting, she walked to her office. On her desk sat a framed photo baby Hope in Victoria's arms, both of them laughing. Another frame held a quote she had written herself. Pain built the walls. Love tore them down. Her phone buzzed. It was Victoria. How's the grand opening? Victoria asked, her voice warm. It feels like a dream, Grace replied. And it's only the beginning. Victoria chuckled. I'm proud of you, little sister. You turned ashes into architecture. Grace laughed softly. I just learned to build again. After hanging up, Grace looked around the studio. For the first time, she didn't see walls, she saw windows. Every surface, every design, carried a piece of her story. That afternoon, a client arrived, a woman with bruised wrists and quiet eyes. Grace recognized the look instantly. Fear mixed with shame. She gestured gently toward a chair. Please sit, you're safe here. The woman hesitated. You don't know what it's like to be trapped, she murmured. Grace smiled sadly. Actually, I do. The client blinked, realizing who she was speaking to. You're her, she whispered. The woman from the news. Grace nodded. The past doesn't define us. It teaches us how to live. By the end of their meeting, the woman was crying not from pain, but from relief. Grace handed her a tissue and said softly, Your new space will be your freedom. When the woman left, Grace sat quietly at her desk, heart full. The baby monitor buzzed softly. Hope was napping at home with Olivia. Olivia, once a shadow of guilt, was now helping Victoria run the Hope Foundation, a shelter for abused women. The three sisters were finally connected not by blood alone, but by purpose. That evening, Grace closed the studio and drove home. The city's skyline shimmered like a heartbeat. At home, she found Hope giggling on the floor, Victoria cooking, and Olivia laughing at something ridiculous. "Mommy!" Hope squealed, toddling toward her. Grace lifted him up, spinning him around as laughter filled the air. Victoria poured a glass of wine. "You've done it, Grace. You've built something bigger than revenge." Grace kissed her son's forehead. "I didn't rebuild my life to prove a point," she said softly. "I did it to prove love can survive anything." Outside, the evening breeze carried the scent of rain, the same rain that once fell on her darkest nights. And this time, it didn't sound like sorrow, it sounded like rebirth. The city of Los Angeles shimmered beneath 1,000 golden lights. That night, the annual Women of Strength Gala filled the grand ballroom of the Hilton, where powerful voices, survivors, and advocates gathered to celebrate stories of resilience. At the center of it all stood Grace Miller, no longer the trembling woman locked in darkness, but the face of survival. She wore a simple white gown, her hair pinned elegantly, her presence glowing with quiet confidence. Victoria stood beside her, dressed in black, radiating power and grace. Olivia was there too, a few scars still visible under the soft makeup, but this time she didn't hide them. She wore them like medals. Reporters whispered as the sisters entered together. It was the first time the public had seen all three since the trial. Flashbulbs exploded, but Grace didn't flinch. She walked forward with her head high, each step a silent victory over everything that had tried to destroy her. The host took the stage. "Tonight," he announced, "we honor women who turned pain into purpose." Our keynote speaker, Grace Miller. Applause filled the hall as Grace approached the podium. She paused, scanning the audience. Politicians, business leaders, survivors, and journalists. Her hands trembled slightly as she adjusted the microphone, but her voice, when she spoke, was steady. "There was a time," she began, "when I thought silence would keep me safe, when fear lived where my voice should have been. But silence is a cage, and the only way out is to speak." The room went still. Cameras rolled. Grace continued, her words deliberate and raw. "I was locked away, forgotten, and told that no one would believe me. But someone did. My sisters, my son, and every woman who ever refused to be erased." Tears glimmered in Olivia's eyes as Victoria reached for her hand. Grace took a deep breath. "Forgiveness doesn't erase the scars. It just means we stop letting them define us. I don't hate the man who hurt me anymore. I pity him, because while he lived in control, I learned freedom." The audience rose in applause. Some cried openly. Others clapped until their hands hurt. When Grace stepped off the stage, the mayor himself greeted her. "Your story changed lives," he said warmly. "Los Angeles is proud of you." Grace smiled humbly. "It's not my story, it's ours. Every woman who found her strength after losing everything." As the evening wound down, the sisters gathered near the balcony overlooking the city. Music drifted from inside, soft and hopeful. Victoria clinked her glass. "To survival," Olivia added, "to forgiveness." Grace looked at them both, then at the stars above. "To love," she said, "the kind that rebuilds." In the distance, fireworks exploded, painting the night sky in colors of gold and crimson. Grace lifted her son in her arms, his small hands reaching toward the sparks. He giggled, and she whispered, "That's what freedom looks like, baby." The crowd behind them cheered, the music swelled, and for the first time since her nightmare began, Grace felt the world wasn't watching her tragedy, it was witnessing her triumph. And under that glowing sky, Grace Miller's story stopped being about survival, it became a legacy. 6 months after the gala, the morning sun rose over a quiet neighborhood on the outskirts of Los Angeles. Birds sang above a newly renovated brick building with a simple white sign, "The Hope House," a safe haven for women. Grace Miller stood at the entrance, holding her son on her hip. He was bigger now, giggling as he reached for the fluttering blue ribbons that decorated the front gate. Behind her, volunteers bustled about setting up chairs, arranging flowers, hanging banners that read, "From survival to strength." Today was the grand opening. Victoria arrived first, dressed in a tailored cream suit, her expression soft with pride. "You did it," she said, embracing her sister. Grace smiled. "We did it. Every step, every scar, every sleepless night it led here." Olivia joined them moments later, carrying boxes of supplies. She looked healthier, steadier. "You sure you're ready for this?" she teased. "A place full of women with stories as wild as ours?" Grace laughed. "That's the point." At 10 o'clock, the crowd gathered. Reporters, city officials, survivors, dozens of women who had once felt invisible. Grace stepped to the podium. Her voice was clear, calm, and filled with gratitude. "I once lived behind a locked door," she began. "I thought no one would ever find me. But someone did. And that's why this place exists, for every woman who thinks she's alone, for every voice that was silenced, for every child born into fear who deserves to grow up in love." She paused, looking down at Hope, who smiled up at her from Victoria's arms. "This house isn't about me. It's about what comes after survival, the rebuilding, the forgiveness, the peace." The audience erupted into applause. Some women cried quietly, holding each other's hands. After the ceremony, guests toured the building. Each room had a name: courage, healing, freedom. The walls were painted in soft colors, decorated with artwork made by survivors. One hallway displayed a mural, Grace's story told through symbols of transformation: a broken chain, a blooming flower, a sunrise. Olivia stopped in front of it, tears forming. "You turned pain into beauty," she whispered. Grace touched her shoulder. "We all did." Outside, as the sun climbed higher, Victoria stood by the garden fountain, speaking with the mayor about funding expansion. Grace watched her sister, the woman who had once hidden behind power, now using it to protect others. Then she looked at Olivia, laughing with volunteers, her scars catching the sunlight. Redemption, right before her eyes. Grace closed her eyes for a moment, feeling the breeze on her skin. For the first time, peace didn't feel fragile, it felt permanent. A little voice tugged at her sleeve. "Mommy," Hope said, pointing toward the open doors. "Can we go inside?" Grace smiled. "Of course, sweetheart. This is our home too." They stepped inside together, hand in hand, surrounded by laughter and light. Outside, the sign swayed gently in the wind. "The Hope House." Grace turned for one last look at the sky. "They locked me away once," she whispered. "But that's how I learned to build doors." The camera panned out, showing the sisters, the child, and the house that now stood as a symbol of every woman's rebirth. Because in the end, Grace Miller didn't just survive her story, she rewrote it. And through her, thousands more would find their way out of the dark. So, that's how our story ends. But if you're still here, right now, listening until the very last moment, maybe something in Grace's journey touched your heart too. Maybe it reminded you that healing doesn't come from forgetting, but from facing the pain and rebuilding piece by piece. The Stoics once said, "What stands in the way becomes the way." And that's exactly what Grace showed us, that even in suffering, there's strength waiting to be born. So, my dear friends, if life has ever broken you, remember you are not what happened to you. You are what you choose to become after. Keep going. Keep building. Keep believing that light always finds its way back. If Grace's story moved you, don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope tonight, and subscribe to our channel for more stories that heal the heart and remind us we are never alone.